The night my life changed forever started with a single notification. At the time, I thought I was one of the lucky ones. My husband, Daniel, and I had been married for 11 years. We had built a comfortable life together. We weren't rich, and we weren't perfect, but I believed we were happy. At least, I thought we were. That evening felt completely normal. Daniel had fallen asleep on the couch after dinner while I cleaned the kitchen. The television was quietly playing in the background, and I remember feeling grateful for the simple life we had built. Then his phone lit up. Normally, I never paid attention to his messages. I trusted him completely. In 11 years, I had never felt the need to check his phone. But that night, something caught my eye. A message preview appeared on the screen. "Miss you already. Tonight was perfect, red heart." My heart instantly dropped. I stared at the message, hoping I had misunderstood it. Maybe it was a coworker. Maybe it was sent to the wrong person. Maybe there was some innocent explanation. But deep inside, a strange feeling began to grow. I looked at Daniel sleeping peacefully on the couch. He looked exactly like the man I had loved for more than a decade. Yet suddenly, I wasn't sure I knew him at all. For several minutes, I stood there arguing with myself. Part of me wanted to ignore it and walk away. The other part needed answers. Eventually, curiosity became stronger than fear. My hands trembled as I picked up his phone. I knew his passcode. We had always shared everything. Or at least, that's what I believed. The moment the screen unlocked, my entire world began to crack. The message wasn't alone. There were hundreds of conversations. Photos. Voice notes. Heart emojis. Private jokes. Plans for the future. As I scrolled through them, I felt physically sick. The messages stretched back months. Then a year. Then even longer. I wasn't discovering a mistake. I was discovering a hidden relationship. A second life. A life my husband had carefully built while pretending to be devoted to me. The worst part wasn't reading the messages. The worst part was realizing how normal he had acted every single day. He still kissed me goodbye every morning. He still celebrated anniversaries. He still told me he loved me. Meanwhile, he was sharing those same words with someone else. I sat alone in the dark living room, staring at the screen while my marriage slowly collapsed around me. But what I didn't know that night was that the affair wasn't the biggest secret hidden inside that phone. Something even worse was waiting for me. The next morning, I pretended everything was normal. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I smiled during breakfast. I listened to Daniel talk about work. I nodded while he discussed weekend plans. Inside, I felt shattered. Over the next few weeks, I started paying attention to everything. Suddenly, things I had ignored for years began making sense. The late-night meetings. The unexpected business trips. The phone calls he always took outside. The way he guarded his phone whenever I entered the room. The signs had always been there. I simply hadn't wanted to see them. Then one afternoon, while he was showering, another message arrived. This time, I decided to look deeper. What I found shocked me even more than the affair. There were bank transfers. Hotel bookings. Luxury gifts. Thousands of dollars spent without my knowledge. Money we had supposedly been saving for our future. Money we had discussed using for home improvements and family plans. Instead, it had been quietly funding his secret life. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed staring at those transactions. For the first time, I realized this wasn't only betrayal. It was deception on every level. The man I trusted most had been lying to me for years. At first, I wanted to confront him immediately. I wanted answers. I wanted explanations. I wanted him to feel the pain he had caused. But something inside me changed. Instead of reacting emotionally, I became patient. I started gathering evidence. Screenshots. Financial records. Messages. Documents. Every discovery hurt, but every discovery also made me stronger. Slowly, the broken version of me began disappearing. A stronger version started taking her place. One afternoon, I scheduled a meeting with an attorney. Walking into that office felt terrifying. Walking out felt empowering. For the first time since discovering the truth, I felt like I had some control over my future. The attorney reviewed everything I had collected. When she finished, she looked at me and said, "You have more power than you think." Those words stayed with me. Meanwhile, Daniel continued living his double life. He had no idea I knew. No idea I was quietly preparing for the moment when every secret would finally be exposed. And when that day arrived, nothing would ever be the same again. 3 months later, I invited Daniel to dinner. It was our anniversary. The same anniversary he had celebrated while secretly betraying me. We sat at the restaurant where he had proposed years earlier. The irony wasn't lost on me. For most of the evening, I acted completely normal. We talked. We laughed. We ate dinner. Then I placed a folder on the table. His smile instantly disappeared. Inside were copies of everything. The messages. The financial records. The hotel reservations. Every lie carefully documented. His face turned pale. For the first time in years, he had no excuse. No explanation. No story. Only silence. "How long?" I asked quietly. He struggled to answer. But I wasn't looking for answers anymore. I already knew the truth. I simply wanted him to understand that his secrets no longer belonged to him. The game was over. Then I handed him one final document. Divorce papers. His hand shook as he looked at them. And surprisingly, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel revenge. I felt freedom. The months that followed were difficult. Healing never happens overnight. There were days when I cried. Days when I questioned everything. Days when I wondered how someone I loved so deeply could betray me so completely. But little by little, I rebuilt my life. I reconnected with friends. I traveled. I rediscovered who I was outside of my marriage. Most importantly, I learned something powerful. Someone else's betrayal does not define your worth. For a long time, I believed his choices reflected something missing in me. But eventually, I understood the truth. The problem wasn't that I wasn't enough. The problem was that he wasn't honest. A few years later, I heard that the relationship he had chosen over our marriage had ended. His carefully built double life eventually collapsed under the weight of its own lies. Meanwhile, I found something far more valuable than revenge. Peace. Because true victory isn't watching someone else fall. It's standing back up after they tried to break you. And if my story taught me anything, it's this. The truth can destroy the life you thought you had. But sometimes, it also gives you the chance to build the life you truly deserve.